Ruchim Aboyim B'Shem Irgin Shir Torah. We'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Rabbi Yakov Zev on the topic of when carrying is not carrying. Rabbi Yakov Zev is sponsoring a shir called Irgin Shir Torah at 718-851-8651.
We often say the best shiurim come from real life shilas. Today's sugya is a perfect example. We had a shilah once, Grada was Yom Tov, that's the interesting thing. Someone came to shul and he had a suit, and the price tag was still on. There was like a plastic price tag hanging from the jacket. He wanted to know if he could wear it on Yom Tov. Now, the truth is, Yom Tov you're allowed to carry, unless you're carrying Shaloi L'Tzorech Klal. And there's no reason to carry the price tag. You're not using the price tag. Now, it happened to be that he wasn't very proud of the price. It was a clearance sale, $99, maybe 2 for $99, I'm not sure. But it was no big, doesn't show how much he spent. And he wasn't proud of it. And the question is he allowed to go out with that suit? Do we say that it's Shaloi L'Tzorech and therefore on Shabbos and even on Yom Tov is asa? Or as he said, maybe it's bottle. In other words, you're carrying, but it's bottle. Or how about this child? Someone asked me this past winter. It was talking to the yeshiva, and the kitzah had a very unique shaila. People have in their coat pockets, there's a hole. So the kitzah had a coin in the coat pocket, and it fell through the hole into the lining. Now it's Shabbos, and he knows for sure there's a coin in his lining. You can't take it out. It's muktzah. It's hard to shake it out without touching it. Could you wear the coat home? He's carrying a nickel, a quarter. So he wanted to be mavatalit, the same lumbus, just be mavatalit. Pesach season, bittul, and the afadara. He's carrying a quarter, does it help bittul? Someone's walking and there's pebbles in his shoes. Could he ignore it? Or say it's bottle? Well, this is a typical question that today I think is unavoidable. Someone approached his friend, says, "Why are you carrying on Shabbos?" So his friend was frightened, carrying? He goes, "Yeah, look at your jacket, look at your shirts, there are extra buttons. Spare buttons, reserve buttons, they're called. Why are you carrying them? Are you using spare buttons? Oh, maybe if the button falls off, you'll replace it with that button. So you're carrying buttons every Shabbos just in case you have to replace it during the week." But he said it's bottle. So the question really is, when is carrying, which seems to be carrying, not carrying? Is there such a concept of bittul? So one thing is very clear. Carrying is the wrong word to use for our issa of haitzah. Because as it's klar in the Paiskim, it's actually a Gemara. If someone has something in his pocket, it's also carrying, even though he's not carrying it. The Gemara in Shabbos, Kuf Beis, Amar Aleph has something in his mouth. He goes out sucking a candy. It's Aisa Daraisa. Carrying is the wrong word. Transporting, rishus l'rishus, is the right word. And that's why you'll understand. There's a Rashba, a beautiful Rashba in Chele Gimel Siman Reish Samach Beis. Someone wrote to the Rashba that I heard you said you're allowed to attach the key that your house to your clothing and go out with that because it's bottle. So the Rashba, that's sheker. I never said such a thing. And the Rashba said there's something that's not part of the beged. Even if you attach it to the beged, it's still asa. And this is quoted in Shulchan Aruch in Shin Aleph Yud Aleph. Even if it's mechuba, it's asa. In Siv Chav Gimel, again, the Shulchan Aruch, according to the Taz, explains, even if it's attached to the beged, if it's not part of a beged, if it's not a tachshit, if it's not a hishtamshus, it's asa. So obviously, this svar of bittul doesn't work as easy as we would like it to work. But listen to a Mishnah. Listen to a Gemara, I should say. In Shabbos Kuf Lamed Tes Amud Beis, Hayoytze Betala She'enim Betzuyetzas Kilchasa Chayiv Chatas. Which means a person started making tzitzis, but he never finished. He put on 3 corners, and the 4th corner has no tzitzis. To wear that on Shabbos, Zaktim Gemara, is Chayiv Chatas, a very frightening word. That's a Malacha Daraisa. Why? So Rashi explains, because the tzitzis are valueless at this point. 3 out of 4 is not good. You're missing. So Rashi says, since the tzitzis are not functional, they're not kosher, the tzitzis are carrying. So here we see it's attached It even belongs there. But if it's not functioning right now, you're chayiv. So how could you say it's mutter because it's bottle? Here, this is mamish attached. And listen to a Mishnah. The Mishnah in Erevin of Tzadik Chesam at Beis, Misha nitlash roikei befiv, leyahalach dalaramis at sheyorek. Zogt Rashi, if someone accumulated saliva, spit in his mouth, he shouldn't carry that on, he couldn't walk out with that on Shabbos. And this Gepaskin in Shinun Siv Gimel. Why? Because since you want to expel it, it's no longer regular saliva, and it's carrying. Now, we would have said, saliva comes from you, is bottle. But the Shulchan Aruch says saliva is asa. Obviously, this bittul doesn't really work. However, there's one Gemara that's a big yisoid in Hilchas Bittul. And that is the Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Kuf Lamed Tes Amud Beis. The Gemara that's really the yisoid of our whole sugya. And it happens to be the next Gemara, after the Gemara says that you're not allowed to go out with tzitzis that are puzzle, the next word, listen to this, Mis'atef Adam Bekila, you're allowed to take a cloth, actually it's a canopy, something you use by a chuppah, for example, wrap it around, and go out with that as a beged. In other words, in those days, they didn't wear suits and shirts like we have. They took a cloth, wrapped it around. Zok to Gemara, you're allowed to take this canopy cloth, wrap it around, and go out with that on Shabbos. That's enough derech malbush, it becomes like a regular clothing. But the chiddush is, even though there are strings hanging from this canopy, from this cloth, what do you do with the strings generally? During the week, when you want to put a b'chuppah, you would take the strings, attach it to the poles. But you're not a pole on Shabbos. You're not using the strings. How are you allowed to go out with that canopy? And the canopy is a halbatzar. It's okay. What about the strings that are functionless? So the Gemara, so Rashi explains, the strings are bottle. Forget about the strings. The canopy is sort of a beged. That's good enough. The question is, very nice bottle, manishtana tzitzis, from strings. Strings of a canopy is mutter bottle. And tzitzis are also strings. Why is tzitzis chayiv chatos? That's an excellent question. The Gemara asked that question. And the resolution to this teretz is going to be all of our sugya today. Zok the Gemara, tzitzis legabi talas chashivi v'loi botli, hani loi chashivi ubatli. Zok Rashi, since the tzitzis are very chashiv, they happen to be tcheles, tcheles cannot be bottle. Therefore, if it's not bottle, you're carrying. But strings hanging from a canopy, strings, big deal, valueless, kamat, worth very little. That's bottle. So in other words, if something is unimportant, according to Rashi, it's bottle. It's the rare case of tcheles that's very expensive, that's not bottle. Okay, the Rajba that we mentioned has a slightly different shot, that the tzitzis are really independent, they're the mitzvah, it's not bottle, but the strings are part of the beged, and therefore he says, attaching something that's not really part of the beged, attaching a key to the cloth is taka'asa. But the last shot is the pshat of Tosfos, quoting Rabbeinu Chananel, that's also the pshat of the Rambam, which will have a tremendous, tremendous impact on our sugya. Zok Tosfos, you know why tzitzis is asa? Not because it's tcheles. We're talking about regular lavan, regular white tzitzis. So why is tzitzis not bottle? Lefish shechashuvim hein be'einov, shadaitei litin betalas tzitzis, revius. V'daitei sheyitla haravius. The Rambam says, v'daitei aleim. In other words, this is what we're going to refer to as daitei lahashlimam, or daitei, in fact, that's enough. If you have strings that are hanging, and the way they are, they're fine, like the strings of that canopy, what's the problem? There's nothing wrong with them. Part of the beged. When you have tzitzis, 3 out of 4, that's valueless, that's worthless. When does it become important? When you add a 4th one. So right now, it's important tzitzis because you want to fix them, but you didn't fix them. So what are they? Tzitzis. Tzitzis are chashiv. How could you walk out with 3 groups of tzitzis when they're functionless? Are you telling me they're bottle? It's not true. Because Sunday, you're going to put on the 4th bundle, and you can go out with them. So since it's daite lashlimam, it's not bottle. The strings of this canopy are fine the way they are. If they're fine the way they are, just leave them. So here we see a tremendous machlokes, Rashi and Tosfos. When is something bottle? According to Rashi, everything is bottle unless it's super chashiv like tchelis. According to Tosfos, any tzitzis is chashiv. It's just strings of that canopy is okay. The nafkamina would be, if you have tzitzis today that are not tchelis. Zokteran, according to Rashi, today's tzitzis would be mutter. According to Tosfos, it's asa daite lashlimam. How do we paskin? So Shulchan Aruch in Shin Aleph Lamed Ches clearly paskins like Tosfos. If you have tzitzis that are still missing, and you're daite lashlimam, it's also to go out with that talis cotton on Shabbos, because daite lashlimam makes it chashiv. Now Rabbi say, let us apply this lemaisa, and I'm going to start with a very simple question, but I urge you approach with caution. It's going to be negeya to many, many shaylas. Let's say you have a loop on the pants, a loop that you put the belt in. So usually you put the belt in and holds the belt. Let's say one part of it tore off, detached. So now you have a loop that's hanging, attached on one side. I'll give you another example. You have in many jackets and coats, and they used to be more popular, you have on the upper corner, upper center, a hanger. Used to be a hook, hanger, and used to hang up the coat on the jacket, or the jacket on the nail. The hanger tore on one side. A chain, sometimes it was. Bekitza, a loop of pants, of a coat, the loop tore. So basically, it is dysfunctional because it's not holding up the belt because it tore. It's not made of tchelis. It's not tzitzis. It's a regular loop of pants or a coat, and it's hanging right now. Can you go out with that on Shabbos? So you're wondering, it's not expensive, it's very cheap. But then again, what's the magical word for today? Daite lashlimai. And this l'chayr is daite lashlimai. And if you said that, Baruch shekivanta to a chayodam. Chayodam in Nun Vav Yud Gimel first discusses the halacha of talashen b'tziyetzit is asa because daite lashlimam. And then the chayodam says a tremendous yisoid. Any loop that's partially detached and it's daitoi lashlimai is asa even if it's worth very little. It's not cheles, so what? But then again, tzitzis, lavan, is also not expensive, but it's asa because daite lashlimai. So zok the chayodam, any daite lashlimai is asa. According to that, if someone's in shul, he noticed that the loop of his pants, of his coat, is torn, he has a big problem. What should you do? But you know what a bigger problem is? The Mechaba in Sif Lamed Ches says the halacha that tzitzis is asa, even white tzitzis. The very next Sif, Lamed Tes, the Mechaba quotes the halacha of this canopy that you wear is mutter, and the tzitzis are bottle, and the strings are bottle. And then he adds, and I quote, and hu adin, any loop that was torn on one side, ve'enei chashuv, mutter lot says boy. Ve'im chashuvu, if it's very valuable, then it's asa. So we're very, very confused. The Mechaber says tzitzis is asa in Sif Lamed Ches. In the next Sif Lamed Tes, a loop that's torn and daiti lashlimoi is mutter. Frag the Chayodam, in Nishmas Adam, on that of an art, the Mechaber says himself. He talks about loops, and he's Mekel. How could that be? Daitel Ashlimam is Asa. So the Chayodam says, I don't know how to figure out this Mechaber. Forget about the Mechaber. But I'm telling you, a torn loop is Asa. The Chayodam is very, very right. How could a torn loop be mutter if it's daitel ashlimai? He says, the Rishonim say a torn loop is mutter. That's because they go with Rashi Shita that only tchelis is asa. But we paskin even lovin is asa. How could a torn loop be mutter? He says the Mechaber says himself. That's not my problem. But I'm telling you that a torn loop is also on Shabbos. Now, the truth is, to say you found the Stiras HaMechaber, you have to be a big, big goyin. But even then, you find the Stiras HaMechaber in Shulchan Aruch from Yeridea to Even Ezer, no, you could entertain the thought you found the Stira. But to think the Mechaber says in the very next Sif is absolutely unthinkable. The next Sif? What's Takad Pshat? Tzitzis is chashiv and awesome. And why is a torn loop mutter? Zok the Tila LaDavid, and the K'tzais HaShulchan, and the Aruch Shai, and the Aruch HaShulchan, and the Minchas Yitzchak, the Maaseh Eliyahu, the Emek Halach, Rabbi Yakov Zev has a true about it. They all say the same yisoid. If you look at all the Rishonim, the Rambam, the Tashbetz, the Rashba, the Ran, they all say tzitzis, even if it's not cheles, but since it's completing a mitzvah, that's chashiv. The Gemara spoke about tzitzis, not loops. Why? Because according to Taisvis, any tzitzis that's daitel ashlimai is chashiv because it completes the heilige mitzvah of tzitzis. The Kohen cried when he's leaving the world, he's losing the mitzvah of tzitzis. So since it's daitel ashlimai to a mitzvah, that's why it's awesome. And again, the Rishonim say clearly, tzitzis chashivi asuyas Hashem mitzvah. But if you have a loop of a pair of pants that's worth a few pennies no more, and it's not a mitzvah, that's takamutta. It's only tzitzis that daitel ashlima is asa. If you look in the Levush in Sif Lamed Ches, he stresses this twice, because the tzitzis, the strings are going to be used l'shem mitzvah tzitzis, la'ashlimam la'asay tzitzis. So here we understand very well the Mechaber. When something is valuable like chelas, it's awesome. When something is even not chelas, if it's loven, but it's a mitzvah of tzitzis, that's chashiv. But if you have a loop on the pants that's torn, how much is that worth compared to the pair of pants? How could that asa the pair of pants? So therefore says, all these Gedolei HaPoskim, the Mechaber is not saying himself. It's only tzitzis daitel ashlima is asa. Now the Chayodim understood that if it's daitel ashlimai, it's chashiv to you. I want to fix it. But that's not the sheet of the Rishonim. So I would rather say the Mechaber is not sois himself. It's only daitel ashlimai tzitzis, and that's what all these poskim say. But then again, the Chayodim asks, how should we fear? How do we paskin? So the Mishnah Berurah in Sifkat and Kuf Nun quotes the Chayodim La'alacha. Rav Moshe in Chelek Kesim and Yud Ches and the Chazon Ish in Moyadim Uzmanim Zayin Kuf Lamed Zayin, even regarding Yom Tiv, goes with the Chayodim. But as I told you, we had a long list of Achronim that say that this is not true. The only time it's asa is only by tzitzis. The Aruch HaShulchan in the end of Kuf Zayin, he says some are hold that a torn loop is asa. The Divrei Shkogim, it's a mistake. He just totally negates the Chayodim. I think I would like to quote the K'tzais HaShulchan's Achra and Kuf Tezvav Sif Chavav. He quotes the Chayodim. He says the big kash on the Chayodim, and he says, but Lamaisa, it's hard to be mekel keneged the Chayodim and Mishnah Berurah. We have a very big kash on the Chayodim, but the Chayodim was the Chayodim. Mishnah Berurah quotes it. So I think what's right to say is, if someone has a torn loop and you notice it before Shabbos, fix it. Or wear a different suit or coat. Because Lamaisa the Chayodamas, even though it's shver. If someone realizes on Shabbos he's in shul, the loop of his pants or his coat is torn and he has no other coat, then Yuzicha could rely on those that are makel. But what's probably the best eitzah to be yaitza all shitas, if you decide right then and there, I will not fix this loop. I'll tear it off and throw it away. I want to wear a belt, I'll put on a different loop. That then would be mutta even like the chayodah. If you tell me this loop is no longer daiti lashlimai, then it's mutta even according to the chayodah. You'll say, who are you fooling? This is harama. You're just throwing it out just because of Hilchas Shabbos? The answer I'll tell you is, who cares? If this is not eventually going to be fixed, it is valueless. I found the Minchas Shabbos, and page 334 says this, but it's pashut. He says, Avel halach is a Shabbos, you worried maybe it's harama. Here the question is, are you going to fix this? Will you use this? The answer is no. If so, this very loop is valueless and is mutter. So that's the way we're going to say, but the point of the sugya is, when something is daitil ashlimam, generally it has chshivas, according to the Chayyadam. According to most shitas, if it's not worth much, it is bottle. Now let's apply it to the numerous shilas and shimu sechin afshechem. Let's start off with another interesting question. Someone really did a job. It's negay with children. All the tzitzis they were wearing, all the four corners got stuck in something, on a bicycle, whatever it is, all the tzitzis are puzzle. They're left, a little bit zeichel lechurban, but they have four groups of tzitzis, they're all puzzle. Can the child wear that beged on Shabbos? So the emphasis is that beged has a problem besides Hilchas Shabbos. It's a dalet kanfois that doesn't have tzitzis. But on Shabbos, some say you're allowed to wear it, quite abriya. Let's forget about Hilchas tzitzis. Can you wear it on Shabbos or is it haitzah? So let's think about it. He's carrying 4 bundles of pastel tzitzis. How could it be mutter on Shabbos? But the truth is it's mutter. Why is it mutter? Because since those tzitzis are not daite lashlimai, they're all torn and pastel. Zok Taz and Simon Yud Gimel, Sif Kat and Aleph, it's mutter. It's not choshev, because it's pastel. It's not daite lashlimai, and therefore it's perfectly mutter. You'll ask, roik in the mouth is also, why is pastel tzitzis better? Teretz is pasha. Roik in the mouth, you want to expel it, you don't want it there, it's not bottle. Tzitzis on the beged, faket, it looks good. People think he's wearing tzitzis. You don't care if it's there. It's attached, it belongs there, it's meaningless, bottle. Let's say someone has tzitzis, and one tzitzah of each bundle is pastel. So he has 4 pastel bundles, but 3 out of the 4 are still pretty good. Zok Tishmir Shabbos in Yud Ches Lamed Hey, if he is too lazy to unravel the tzitzis and take out the 3 kosher ones and add 1 to each bundle, he'll just tear it off and put in the shemis, then you'll let it go out with that on Shabbos. Why? It's not daite lashlimai. This bundle is not daite lashlimai. Okay, Mr. Brewer says you're not supposed to tear tzitzis out of kosher. It's a different issue. But if it's not daite lashlimai, then even by tzitzis, it's perfectly mutter. Question. Someone has a button, a cracked button. So now he has a half a button. Can he go out with that with a half a button on Shabbos? So if it's still functional, it looks decent, it holds the jacket closed, so it's still fine. The question is, if it's too small to hold the button, to hold the buttonhole, that we'll say is mutter. It's not daite l'shlim. You're not going to glue the button back to the other half. It's valueless, and therefore it would be bottom. The only point I should mention is, don't be firm and say, "Why? Let me just tear it off. Why should I carry something for no reason?" Tearing it off might be kareya. Since it was sewn on, it's toifa now. Taking it off is kareya. But leaving it is bottle, and don't worry about it. The only question we'll soon see, if the person is embarrassed because he has a cracked button. So the poskim say it's not likely you could say bottle. It becomes part of me if I don't want it to be there. I'm embarrassed with a cracked button, so that's a little of an issue. We'll soon see. Question. Someone asked me this question. You have to know that it's an interesting metzias. But people have, let's say, in their jacket, like I have it over here, they have this loop, if you call that, and with this, you put it onto the button in the jacket, and you close the pocket. So you have a loop, and then it goes onto a button. People have in the back pocket of their pants a loop that closes onto a button. So this person was a lamdin. The button fell off, no button, but the loop is good. Can he go out with this loop? Because if there's no button, so the loop is functionless. I said it's a good question, but there's nothing wrong with the loop. It's still functional. It's not detached. How many people never close their button of the jacket? They're afraid if they close it, it's going to pop. So they don't close it. Is it awesome? As long as it's part of the tzuras of the beged. This loop is fine. If there's no button under it, so big deal. But it's still functional as is. That's the way it was made. So the fact that there's no button there, it's just as mutter as if you don't close the button. How many people are makbid not to put anything in their pockets on Shabbos, like the minig of the girl? Will you say that you know how to carry the jacket because the pockets are a masui? Some people don't even open it; they keep it sealed. We'll say it's always pocket. It's unlikely. We had a question. Someone had a buttonhole that widened from use. So even if you close the button, it opened. So again, that the button is sewn on nicely, leave it as it is. The buttonhole, no one knows. It's basically a tzuras hamalbish. I saw the Shmir Shabbos says that as well, and it's very mistaver like that. The question is, when you have a loose button that's dangling, it's an inch or two lower than where it's supposed to be, so that we have to clear. That's daitel hashlimai. He will fix it after Shabbos. According to the Chayyadam, there's an issa on wearing that jacket als carrying. But like the other paiskin, it's daitel hashlimai of an inexpensive button, and there are 100 such buttons. You'll have to wear it as it is. Let me just pull the threads, tighten it so that I could wear it l'chatchila. That's a problem of taifa. But here we come to a very important question. You tell me that the button that's dangling an inch or two lower is bottle. Okay. Aren't you embarrassed to walk around with a button hanging low like that? How could we say something is bottle if you don't want it to be there? Bottle, tuffle, all that means, I don't care. If I have this on my beggar, I don't mind. It's part of it. I have buttons I don't use. It's tuffle, it's bottle. But a button that you're embarrassed of its presence, you don't want it to be there, how could that be bottle? Do we have a raya that something you don't want to be is bottle? Is not bottle? The answer is yes, roik. The Gemara says an Erevin roik in one's mouth that he wants to expel is awesome. Why don't we say it's bottle like every other bit of saliva? Terry says if you don't want it there, if it's uncomfortable, it can't be bottle. So this is somewhat of an issue. If the person is makbid that it should be there, it's unlikely that it becomes bottle. The very big issue, which today is unavoidable, is what's called either spare buttons or reserve buttons, whether you realize or not, but I think every shirt today has 2 buttons on the bottom of the shirt itself, sewn on, just in case you need an extra button. Many jackets, many coats, women's clothing. The question is, why isn't that hoitzah? You're walking out with a few spare buttons just in case you need it during the week. So you're carrying on Shabbos buttons if you need it during the week. But more so, isn't this a perfect example of daitay lashlimai? You're taking a button out because you might use it during the week. Says the Shmir Shabbos in Yud Ches Sif Lamed, wearing reserve buttons on Shabbos is awesome, and his footnote, he says, Ayin Chayyadam. According to the Chayyadam, Daitel Hashlimai is awesome, even if it's an inexpensive loop. So who did an inexpensive button? So the Chayr, this is an incredible analogy. Spare buttons are Daitel Hashlimai, and also according to the Chayyadam. The Debatzina Rav and Gimel Samach Zayin, the Orletzian Chav Gimel Tes, say the same Yisaid. So it would come out that even on Yom Tiv, you shouldn't be wearing reserved buttons. Because that's a tzah shaloi l'tzarech klal. You're not going to use them on Yom Tiv. But Paik Chazi, many people don't know about it. Many people know about it and ignore it. The taina is good. It's daite l'shlimai. So Pashut will say, according to the Chayyadam, you might be right. But as we saw, many Paiskim on Mekel, daite l'shlimai is only asa by tzitzis, not by any items. So an inexpensive button, even if it's daite l'shlimai, is mutter. But there's a much more fundamental reason why spare buttons could be mutter, even according to the Chayyadam. And that is the fact that this is the tzuras hamalbush. It's made thousands or maybe hundreds of thousands of shirts. Each one of them has spare buttons. It's not there because if I need a button on Tuesday, I'm going to take it off. I mean, that's why they're making it officially. But this is the way the malbush is designed. Did anybody ever wonder why you have to have 4 buttons on the sleeve of your jacket? And what's wrong with 2 and what's wrong with none? Like, who cares? So, is anybody bothered by this? You're carrying 4 buttons? What are you going to ever use these buttons for? Teretz, that's the way the malbush is. I live and let live. If this is the way they designed the malbush, that it has spare buttons, that's part of the Tzuras malbush. And Takar Shleim Bezalman, in Ha'ora Kufla Magimel, on that Shmira Shabbos, he was Mekel, and he says, just like according to the Shitas of the Gra, if you attach a handkerchief on Shabbos, and that becomes Tzuras HaMalbush, it's mutter. So too, when you have buttons that are there day and night, a whole week on Shabbos, it becomes Tzuras HaMalbush and it's mutter. This in Karel's and Chut Hashani Chilek Daut Omer Kuf Lamed Hey says this is not a typical Daitel Ashlimoi. This, if you're going to need it, you'll take it off. But right now, it's fine the way it is. And a very thorough tshuva, the Machzil Yo Siman Mem Gimel, he says a different point. Also very gishmak, like the understanding that we have from this sugya. Did you ever wonder, the Chayyadam says, Daitel Ashlimoi is asa, a torn loop is asa. According to the Chayyadam, how could the Gemara say you're allowed to wear a canopy with the strings dangling? The strings you're not using. You're not a chuppah, right? You're going to use it when you're tied to the chuppah during the week. So how could you use it on Shabbos? During the week, when you put up a chuppah, you're going to use the strings to tie to the poles. Why don't we say the strings are asal daitel ashlimai? The teretz is, wait a minute. Daitel ashlimai is when there's something detached about it, something wrong about it. You're going to fix it, or you're missing something, like tzitzis. This canopy is perfect the way it is. If you don't need the strings, so ignore the strings. Spare buttons are the same thing. It's nothing wrong with it. That's the way the shirt is designed. That's the way it comes. And then he also develops very clearly, the Yisrael that Shlomo Zalman alluded to, there's something called Tzuras Malbush. Again, there are many people that never close their jacket button, don't use the pockets, the 4 buttons on the side, the button hair, double-breasted. I mean, the list goes on and on. Beged does not have to be every button used. And the fact that it's designed and made, he says, Tzuras Malbush would be mutter even according to the Chayyadam. It's not detached, there's nothing wrong with it, no one is meisim leiv, even according to the Chayyadam, it's mutter. Then he does add, how about if you have specifically women's clothing come with special buttons, the whole, that dress has special buttons and it's very hard to replace. And they have spare buttons of these unique buttons that are hard to find. Maybe that's chashiv. Maybe that's like chelas. It's hard to find. So then he says, so what? If you're going to tell me that the spare buttons are tzuras malbush, so then even if it's expensive, he said, okay, but you want to say that Slamaisa, it's an expensive button, maybe it should be choshev that it's not part of the malbush. Okay. So you could take off the extra buttons when they're a exclusive type of button. But the regular buttons, he says, you could be making. He says, really, even the women's buttons that are exclusive is Tzuras Malbush. But if you don't, if you've got to take it up before Shabbos, he feels you can be making even with that. But what's beautiful is that it's all our sugya. How do you apply the word Daitai Lashlimai? I'll give you another beautiful example. The Minchas Yitzchak and Chelik Gimel, Samach Aleph was asked the question, I guess we never think about because we're so used to it. You could have a spring coat that comes with a liner that zips in and opens and closes, or buttons. It comes the beginning of the summer, you take out the lining, you'll only use the coat itself without a lining. Why don't we say that the lining that's in the coat, the zipper, or the buttons, or the loops, whatever's left in the coat, is mamash haitzah. You're not going to use it for the rest of the summer. You're going to use the coat, but not with the lining. The lining you put away. Why don't we say the remaining part of the lining is daitel hashlimai? When it becomes sukkos weather, you're going to put the lining in. So for the next 4 months, you're carrying daitel hashlimai. Says the Minchas Yitzchak, the exact same side that we said earlier. This is the way the raincoat is designed. That's the tzuras malbush. It's not torn, it's not loose. It's the regular malbush. And he gotta said you could even light the tilas davar, it's even more pashit. It's not choshev. And basically, you're allowed to wear the lining, even though there's no lining inside of it. The remaining part is but. So we finished buttons. Now let's discuss a little bit labels. So there's no question about it. Label of the design, of the quality, whatever it is, or all of that is part of the malbush. Now, I never ever use the label of my suit, but that's sewn in. It belongs there, and it's basically part of the suit. A tricky question someone asked, it's a good thing I have a tie today, but you have this in the back of the tie. For those who don't wear ties, you learn a thing or two. So there's like a loop that sometimes has the name of the designer, but it's also supposed to hold the inside, the small string, the small part of the tie in place. So you put it through. Someone came to me on Shabbos that this loop was attached on one side. So you had a loop hanging, and it was not holding the piece of tie that it's supposed to. So he thought he discovered America. This is mamish the chayadam. According to the chayadam, that would be awesome. But as we saw, most paiskim on mekel, because it's very insignificant, and even if it's daitel hashlimah, it's mut, it's only tzitzis. But what I noticed, he was a real lamb, this person, he had something like this, and then he had inside, under that, he had a designer label that also had a loop to go through. So he had 2 loops. One that was made specially, and one was the designer label that also you could squeeze the tie through. So I asked him, after Shabbos, are you going to run home and are you going to sew up the other loop, or you'll use the inside one? He goes, no, I don't mind the inside one, but the outside one is bothering me. He said, oy bazai, it's not daitel hashlimai, and even according to the chayadam, it's mutter. So here you have a spare loop for your tie. That's what it comes out. There are 2 loops, but anyhow, if you decide that you're not going to fix it, you don't need it, then it's mutter even according to the chayadam. In the worst scenario, it's the machlokes chayadam and most paiskim. The question about a shatnez label is as old as the shatnez laboratory, but the shatnez label, it's not very much functional, but that's really part of the Suras Malbish, and an Elachid is proud to have a shatnez label that he checked it, so whether it's chashiv or not, but it's part of it, it's not detached, and it's fine. The cleanest tag is a little more of an issue, because it's not something you're very proud of, but then again, it's bottle, it's not daitel hashlimai, you're not embarrassed of it, it's usually inside. So I'll say, I want to be firm, I'll take it off. But if it's attached with a staple is a form of taifa. Detaching a stapled item would be the opposite of taifa, at kareya. So don't be firm, or be firm, and leave it and consider it bottle. Someone asked an unusual question, but it was a good question. He goes to a shul, and he's one of the hundreds of black coats that are hanging on the hangers. How is he supposed to find his coat after davening? So he had a brainstorm. He took a red piece of material and he attached it to the lining of his coat. His coat almost glows in the dark in actual a red lining. Not lining, actually part of it, but he has no other function, just as identification. No, that's wonderful. I saw this Shmir Shabbos, Yud Ches Kuf Ayin Gimel, Rav Wozner, Chelik Beis, Samach Aleph. Ein lechatzoyer gadol mizeh. He has come out this shyly, put something in to identify his coat. Ein lechatzoyer, this would be a tzorech malbush, and it's attached, it's fine. The question we began, a price tag that the person is uncomfortable with it dangling in front of him, That's taka problem, l'chayra. Because if you are makbid, it shouldn't be there. How could it be bottle? We said puzzle the tzitzis, that they're all puzzle, the taz is makel. There, you're going to take it off after Shabbos. But it doesn't bother you that it's being there. It looks pretty good, like you're wearing tzitzis. But if you have a price tag hanging from your sleeve, walking around shul, and your price is Golav Yadua L'chala Amim, you're embarrassed. And Taka, L'chayr, the Raya is from Roik. Roik, you don't want it to be there, it's not bottle. What did I saw? Shlomo Zalman and Hara Kuf Pei Gimel, he speaks about, we'll soon see things in your mouth, things in your pocket that could be bottle. But he says, if you have a pebble, a stone in your shoe, and it's annoying you, that's not bottle. Something that's annoying you can't be bottle. Rav Sternbuch and Chayil Aleph Reish Mem also says that something that bothers you can't be bottle. So if someone has this price tag and he's embarrassed from it, we can't say it's bottle. What you should do is, if it's a plastic price tag, just cut it. That's something it's not sewn on, it's just attached. So you're allowed to cut that off. There's no question of Taifa versus Korea. It's Mekalkel, L'tzayrach, Shabbos, or Yom Tov, whatever it is, and that would be okay. Someone asked if he has a mud stain or a regular stain on his clothing, why is that bottle? I'm also not excited about a mud stain. But the answer has to be, and I'm going to use this word, that's part of a Tzuras Malbish, that's normal. I saw Rabbi Nissen Karelitz in Chut HaShani Daled Kuf Lametes, he says that something that usually ends up being there like stains, that becomes part of the jacket. But a price tag that's not supposed to be there, I guess he means to say, would not be bottom. That's why I understood from his words that something that's typical is just blends into the jacket. When a person has that dangling price tags, I wonder if you stick it into a place that no one sees it, maybe then it's mutter because that's bottle. But it's not mustafa, because if you don't want it to be there, how does bittul work? It's not noticeable, but if you don't want it to be there, we're back to the original yisoid, it can't be bottle. Someone that's walking with a pebble, we saw Rabbi Zalman says you have to stop and shake it out. Now, how you allowed to carry on Shabbos in Sarabim? So I guess once you stopped already fafalin, drop it where you shake it out of the shoe, that's within Toich Dalar Amis, and that would be mutter. But to walk further, the chayra, there would not be a heta, that's not bottle when you don't want it to be there. The question that we began with, someone has a coin in his lining of his coat. He can't get it out, it's very hard, he can't pull it out. To me, there's no heta of bittul. A coin in a lining is not part of the lining. Now on Pesach, for chametz, bittul kahaf da'ara works. But where do we see haitzah? There's a het of bittul. You take something that's there and it's not there. If something is attached, if something belongs there, but a quarter or whatever, nickel in your lining, where's the din of bittul? You know what it seems to me? What's like someone is walking in the street and he didn't think, and he has a used tissue in his pocket. And he's, oh yeah, I'm carrying a tissue. No problem. Bottle, heft for the ara. He says that in the nusach of the bittul chametz, and that's it. So Mr. Karelitz in the Chut HaShani, on that same page, he says, the het of something that's not choshev is something belongs there, or something that comes there. But a tissue is not bottle in your pocket. So how could a quarter be bottle in your lining? Now the truth is a tissue is worse because he will take it out after Shabbos, and this coin, he'll leave it there. But to me, there's no makar to say something does not belong there, and it's not attached, and it's not even derech to be there, is automatically bottle. Now, the truth is you find in Hilchos Tumah, in Sukkot, Avdalah, Babasu, Testament Beis, if you mavatl something so that it becomes part of it, like Hilchos Tumah, but that has no shaykh to Hilchos Haitzah. It's hard for you to understand that a coin in your lining is bottle, quote unquote. Someone knows better than that, I'd love to hear this. Someone had this shaila on Shabbos, he was walking, he felt something clicking, there was a thumbtack stuck to his shoe. So he doesn't mind leaving it, but should he take it off? Should he leave it there? That might be taka bottle, it's stuck on, and he could wear it like that. Or unless we'll say, if he's makbid, if it's making noise, then taka should take it off. Because that's something he doesn't want to be there, that would not be bottle. What's a big discussion in the Paiskim. I was very surprised, but it's a big discussion in the Paiskim. What do we do with things in our pockets that might be insignificant, but they're there? There's crumbs, there's other dirt. You'll say, who has crumbs in their pocket? Wait a few weeks till you clean for Pesach, you'll see all the crumbs. So the Mincha Shabbos, in the beginning of Siman Pei, it's a very frightening story, but he says that Lamaisa, there's a problem of Eitzah when you're carrying crumbs. He quotes the Kitzur Shlah, that was not the Shlah, but that was the Sefer after the Shlah, who Saka said before Shabbos, you check your pockets. True, it's a Malachin Tzvicha Legufa, and you'll say that it's a Chatzi Shir, that's not the full Malacha, and he's not used, and if it's a Carmel, it's another Tzad. But he says, basically in Yesoid, there's an Issa Vaitzah on crumbs. He does say, we'll soon see the source, if it's Mamish Efsha to get it out, Efsha Lizar is bottled, we'll soon see the source. But Lamaisa, this is interesting. The Shmir Shabbos in Yudches Ha'ar Kuf Pei Gimel, quote Abshleim Zalman, Lo Yishamanu Mish Yizar B'kach, the Lichluch is bottled to the Beged, even though it's not Suras HaBeged. Now, that's hard to understand. How is crumbs in your pocket bottled to the, what shaykh is crumbs after to the pocket? What I think he means to say, and I saw the Sefer, the Orcha Shabbos, in Kuf Tzadik Vav, what I think he means to say is that there's something that is just insignificant. It's not on the map. You know, someone once asked me, he has a little of dandruff, so he wants to shake it off on Shabbos. Is dandruff muktzah? I never found halacha dandruff is muktzah. Muktzah is something that's worthless, but there's something that's worthless, and something that's worthless that's not even on the map. It's not there. It's so bottled that, they're not even shaykh, a chaloi shem muktzah. It seems that's what Rabbi Zalman is saying, that the crumbs is not bottled because it's like a tzitzis, or lech tcheles, or love, and the whole shmooze. It's just not there. It's negligible. A stone in the shoe is disturbing you, but crumbs, you don't care if it's there or not. Rav Sternbuch in Chelik Aleph Reish Mem Vav is also Mekel, and it seems that this is really the minig ha'olam. It's an old Yiddish minig. When Yom Tov goes into Shabbos, the Gabbai Club announces the Boydang the Keshenis. But there's no minig every Shabbos Boydang the Keshenis. You might have crumbs, some last Shal Shudas or the like. So it seems that Lamaisa, the Welt is Mekel, it's probably that it's just less than a non-chashed, it is a non-entity, and therefore bottom. What's important, and this is a little more of a discussion, is people go out after eating and there's food in their mouths. So it's Yedua, the Skelena Rebbe, the old Skelena Rebbe, printed a say from his father, who Taki says, before you walk out, you have to make sure there's no food in your mouth. He was concerned about Haitzah, and the truth is, we can understand that. Because here we have a Gemara in Shabbos Kuf Beis, persons that were going out with candy in his mouth, and it's Adaraisa. I just saw a Plidik Sefer Chassidim, it's one of the Rishonim, Siman Reish Samachay. I don't know the point of his point, but he says, if you want to see someone being Malagera, Kebehema, he says, after he eats, he eats and he's full, give him Shumshimin, that's poppy seeds, give him this Shumshimin, and you'll see it ends up being Malagera, and it's always in his mouth. I don't know the point of that here. But he does conclude, he says, but be careful, don't do this to him on Shabbos, because then he's carrying Shumshimin on Shabbos in his mouth. So you see, if you're carrying food in your mouth, it's Eitzah. And again, that's really the Gemara. The Gemara says that there's something in his mouth, it's Eitzah. And Taka the Mincha Shabbos on page 243 says, you should try to clean your teeth before you go out. Now, Lo Shamanu, such a chumrah. So the Minchas Yitzchak in Chelik Heilam at Ches Dal was asked by the Skelena Rebbe, the old Skelena Rebbe's Chaim Levracha, and he tries to find a heta. He says, there's a shayla, you got to take off a toothpick from a piece of wood to clean your teeth with Malkam Kvayt Abrius. But it doesn't say you're allowed to take off a toothpick to clean your teeth, so it shouldn't be Eitzah on Shabbos. So he tries to say, Roik, you're more makbid, this is less makbid. And he basically says that it's hard to be nizer and therefore has to be mutter. But if you could do it, clean your teeth. Today the Kedushim are getting more and more elaborate. They have a carving station to give out meat by a Kiddush. They have to have a dental floss station. after the carving station. Must be Basa Ben Hashanayim, which in Yeridei is a big mandama, Basa Ben Hashanayim, right? You have to wait 6 hours for that. What about on Shabbos? So, again, the Shmir Shabbos in Ha'oraches quotes the Minchas Shabbos and the Minchas Yitzchak, and he basically says that no one says this till now. For some reason, food in your mouth is bottled. Now, we'll have to say that when you go out with the candy, you wanted the candy to be there, or maybe the Shum Shemin and you do enjoy it, but leftovers from the Kiddush, or whenever you go, Shabbos, Yom Tov, you go right from the Suda to Mincha, you have the dental floss, it's bottled, and it doesn't really count. And again, the Chut HaShani is Mekel, and most Paiskim are Mekel. This Glenn Rebbe's father was very Machma and Echanami, but it does seem that at most it would be a Chatzi Shir, and if it's a Carmelis, and the fact that it's normally there and it's hard to be Nizar, and we could say Kva Nohagu Lahakul. But one thing I think we do see, we don't just say Bittel and it's the end of our problems. If it doesn't belong there, it might taka not be Bittel. That's this Glenn Rebbe's father held. But it seems the belt is Mekel, but that's really part of the person. Now, again, a lining, the coin in the lining is much less of being there, and that's taka why it would be us. Someone asked me a question. At first I thought it was Nervin, but you look into it, it's a good ha'ara. He says, during the winter you walk, and when it's a cold day, your eyes start to tear, and your nose starts to run a little bit. Why is that mutter on Shabbos? So I wanted to tell him before Shalema, but the truth is, his question, I looked into the sugya, is a little intimidating. If the Mishnah, the Mechaber says, roik in the mouth is asa, so why isn't teary eyes or a little extra phlegm that is inevitable during the winter, why is that not asa? So the answer to the Char is Pashit. After the Sugya, it's Pashit, Akapanim. Because Lamaisa will soon see, based on a Beferish Gemara Kamat, when something is Efsha, Chazal weren't Geyser. This is Efsha. But the accumulated spit, that's Efsha. You decided to collect all the spit. And there's another Eitzah, spit it out when no one will be Nimis, but you're allowed to do. But to say that on Shabbos during the winter, you're under house arrest, there's no issue to go out during the winter. And it could also be the spit, you did a ma'isa to separate it. You want it out. You're makbid to get it out. That's where the Baruch Shalom made the human being. So it's basically bottle, it's the Efshali Zohar, and that's probably why I didn't find anybody discussing it. If you know anything more, please tell me. But that certainly is not a problem. Now, even roik, there's no issue to go out with saliva because the human being has roik. The Gemara says, and that's the way the Mishnah Berurah quotes the Lashon of Rashi, if you accumulated it and you want to get rid of it, then it's detached, no longer bottle, and then that's an issue. Now, Lamaisa, the question is, what do you do with it on Shabbos? That's a problem. To spit it out in front of other people, that the Gemara says in Chayigid Afei, Al Kol Nelam, there's a din v'cheshbon to cause other people discomfort. The Arafraim on the Shulchan Aruch and Siman Shin Nun said, maybe you should swallow it. That's also not true. Because divide, it's no longer part of you. Swallowing it might be the hanacha, like swallowing food. Tais says hanacha. So it's a big issue. It's like when you're carrying something that you don't want, and you realize that I'm carrying, what do I do? So that's the big sugya, and what do? You find the Makam Patur, or you drop with the Shinoi. But basically, the Roik is the exceptional case. Anything that other parts of the discharges or the eyes, that's not a problem in the first place at all. Someone asked me a very intelligent question, and when I learned the sugya, I saw that there's a very intelligent answer, Baruch Hashem. He says he always feels guilty. He's walking on a snowy Shabbos, and there's an accumulation of snow on his hat. Why is there a problem of Eitzah as far as the snow is concerned? So the emes is, it's Kamada Beferish Gemara. The Gemara says in Shabbos Kuf Mem Aleph, if someone's coming out of a lake, let's say he toiveled on Shabbos, he should first wipe off all the water on his body, because if he doesn't, he's ending up carrying water on his body, Dalar Amis and a Carmelis. As I state the Gemara, and that's Gepaskin in Shulchan Aruch in Shin Chavav. Zok the Rosh, why Taki is it Asa? Visha Oila Minha Rechitza Yesh Ribui Mayim Al Gufay, because when he comes out of the lake, there's a lot of water, and they're going to come to carry. Then the Rosh asks what you're all wondering. So if that's the case, how could I walk in a rain or a snow? I'm carrying rain or snow. Zok the Rosh, but don't worry about walking in the rain. But he doesn't say why. But the answer is, he does say why. Why is it asa to come out of the lake carrying the water? The Rosh explains, he adds to the Gemara, because there's riboy mayim. But rain is not riboy, and therefore it's mutter. In other words, taka, the rain is a problem. But since it's so minimal, there's no problem. So after a tefillah, it's a problem, shake off the water, and a rain is not a problem. And that's what the Mechaba Paskins in Shin Chavav, Mechaba Paskin like the Rosh, rain is not a problem because it's a little bit rain. Freg the Taz, and if you've cut in bays, I don't know, but when you get caught in a heavy downpour, there's a lot of rain. Zok the Taz, the real heta is Ef Shali Zohar. We're talking about an Issa D'Rabbanan, no more. Chazal were not geyser to do something that you can't avoid. And he sends you to look in Shin Chaf, Sif Yudalid, where it says, pardon me, if someone has to urinate onto snow, even though it's melting the snow, the Shulchan Aruch quotes the sheet of Ramrutenberg is Muti Efshali Zohar. Zok the Taz, because when you're walking in our cold, wintry countries, Taz lived in Europe, it's full of snow. Now to me it was a chiddush. Why didn't he quote his chiddush in Shin Chaf Yud Gimel, where the holiday is, the Machabas, you're allowed to walk onto snow, and you're not chayshish for schita. Zok the Taz, because he actually zar, because all the ground is full of snow. He quotes a machlaikis when he could have quoted the kulam. But the Rabbi say this is the yisoid of Yefshel Zar. If it's unavoidable, and at most this is the Rabbanan, Chazal did not make you be under house arrest. You're allowed to walk on snow, and you're allowed to walk when there's a lot of rain on your person. The only question is, what about snow? Rain goes into the clothing. What about snow? So I didn't find too much about it. I did see the Shmir Shabbos in Tezvav, Kuf Chav Ches. He says that even if you have a lot of hat on your snow, it's mutter, like the Taz, Yef Shlizar. Now, he doesn't suggest stop every so often when you get to a kazayis of snow and shake it off. I guess once it's mutter, it's mutter. The B'Tzeila Chochman Chelik Beis, Simon Pei, and the footnote, he says, Taka, according to the Taz, the het is Yef Shlizar. Now, a bigger problem is if you shake off the hat when you get to shul from the snow, then you could be getting involved with schita mishumalabin. Shake like the Morris, manaya talisai. So better leave the snow on the hat, and it's considering it bottle, and don't worry. Let me leave you with two interesting ha'aras. This is a question that for many people it's a weekly shaila. The old question, you go to the mikveh Shabbos morning, and you're stuck with a unavoidable situation. If I dry my hair, it might be schita. I walk out with wet hair, I'm carrying the water. So Kayadua, they were tzaddikim, the stipler, who went to the mikveh Shabbos morning and waited in the Beis Medrash, whatever, until the hair dried. That's quoted in the Chuvas Hanagas. Reb Chaim Kanievsky in Orchos Yosher writes, his father sometimes did. He went straight from the mikveh to the shul without stopping. But those that are not as great as the stipler, what do they say, Mechan? The same Yefshel the same Yisai, there's no other Eitzah. You have to go to the mikveh, you can't dry the hair, we'll assume it's bottle, Yefshel Izar. And Achron Chav, I'll give you some food for thought for the upcoming Yom Tiv. Someone had a price tag on the suit on Yom Tiv, and he was embarrassed. And it's not bottle. What is the halacha for this person? So you're wondering, what's the shaila? Yom Tov you're allowed to carry. Shabbos the problem. Yom Tov you're allowed to carry. But 1 second. Yom Tov you're allowed to carry l'tzoyrech. Shaloi l'tzoyrech klal, Rashi holds the malacha deraisa. So what's the heta? But you'll be a lamdan. You'll say, wait a minute. The only way to wear the suit is if I carry the price tag. So it's a tzoyrech on carrying the price tag. So this was a good question. In the Mayadam Uzmanim Zayin, Kuf Lamed Zayin, Rav Sternberg has a story, Sternberg Berman, that was the Edom of the Stiples, once by the Chazon Ish, And Chazon Ish noticed that he had a torn loop on his jacket. Chazon Ish said, don't wear the jacket because you're carrying it home. It's like the Chayyadam, because he was Chayish of the Chayyadam. So Shlomo Kibbutz was a big lam. He goes, but this is Yom Tiv. Yom Tiv allowed to carry. He goes, but you're not using the loop. But I can only wear the jacket if I carry the loop. So Chazon Ish says, but you're not using the loop, and take my jacket, but don't wear your jacket. And he gave him his jacket. So here you see, it's not a tzorech on Yom Tiv. But I did see from Rabbi Yashiv in Hilchas Chag B'Chag Perik with Gimel Orah 33 that if there's no other way to wear the jacket, that's enough of a tzorech. But the Metzia Gedoyle is, and I saw this in a Sefer Yom Tov Kachasai, Ishtel zu a Prima Godem and Tov Guf Yud Aleph Sivkat and Ches. Listen to this. You're allowed to toivel on Yom Tiv, and better, he says, don't dry your hair and go out with wet hair. Why? Because a schita on Yom Tiv is not Eichel Nefesh, is asa. Carrying on Yom Tiv is mutter. Now wait a second, you're not using the water in your hair. So obviously the Prima Godim held, if the only way to go out is by carrying the water in the hair, that's enough of a tzorech and his mutter. I can talk to you all. I don't know how you.
Shem English retired like the biggest character of Smith today's share. Smith will give us seek him of the share in 5 minutes.
It doesn't bother.
I'm going to catch him out like a both of Zakis and he saw the figure him on time Mitch and him out of Nerf office and Yad go to the Yad, Kaddish.
Shows that the parents are not to attend to them. It goes in.
Also Rabbi Yakov Zev the label had to be blonde.
Okay, some kids are. Oh, good. That's what I worked at one time on.
Beautifully.
I made it practical and readable and
Easy
smart.
to read to the younger kids.
And it has nice type. Okay, Simcha, ready? Give me one second. Okay, Simcha, ready? Steak is a mamish and nice fear.
That's what he said. He did. I was there, yes.
Why is it sir? It hasn't come back.
That's not a connection.
Yeah, some connection.
See, it's a big, it's a
The child at the Ramah.
That's what I'm saying, it's connected. It's a connected. It's not application.
What about think about this? Point in the
You're going to leave it. You don't walk together in the streets.
What about what else? Why is it different that way? Okay, similar.
You're right.
No, I'll wait for you. Go ahead. I'll wait. That's
Take
similar.
it. I would better leave than taking it off.
Like one is made in Honduras, where it acts as a hanger instead of bronze. It's partially. Or made in whatever country. It's like the leather is made in whatever. And a coat.
You're not gonna fix it.
You could. Doesn't make a
You're
difference.
not gonna fix it. There's no shiloh whatsoever. You're gonna fix it.
And if you fix it,
Well, the chayadim's a problem.
it doesn't bother me. You hang up the goat on a hanger. I use it on a
So
hook.
then it's not that. Let's fine the holidays. Simcha.
But the issue is
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Sikkim?
Yeah. Yeah. After Shabbos. That might be a wrong. Something.
No, if you fix it as it is,
I don't know. You throw it, I take it everywhere. Shumshum is sesame seed. I have to remember that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure. I just said okay. Simcha, ready. Okay.
Yeah, we're still talking.
No.
Okay, Rabbi Smith is ready to carry on with the Sikkim about the share about carrying.
Okay, just short time we learned today, as we said, that carrying is really an inaccurate term. It's really transporting. Carrying is lav dafka, even one's mouth, even a pocket, even attached. If it's not part of the beged, that's also asa. The heta that we discussed today is when something is bottle, when he's not makbid, when it's a string or material that we saw in the Gemara, like the case of the kila of the canopy, that you're wearing the canopy as a beged, which is okay. The string is not a problem because it's bottle. Actually, it's also part of the malbush, part of the cloth, but something that belongs there and doesn't bother you, even though you're not using it, that is a form of bittul. The big machlaikis is when you have a insignificant loop or hanger that tore, which you will fix, but it's really not so valuable, if you're allowed to go out with that before you fix it. The Chayodim said, since it's daiti lashlimai, that becomes chashiv, it becomes eitzah, and most paiskim are mekel, because daiti lashlimai is only asa by tzitzis, where the chshivas of the mitzvah tzitzis, and daiti lashlimai makes it important. But just alone, the fact that you will repair it, a torn loop like the Chayodim is a problem, and like other paiskim would be mutter. If all the tzitzis are puzzle, and you're not going to, of course, fix them, then you'll let go out with that mitzad carrying, because it's bottle. You won't reuse it. A cracked button that doesn't bother you is fine. A hanging button that you're embarrassed from the fact that it's dangling is an issue. A button that fell off, but the loop is still okay, that's okay. The hole of the buttonhole widened, but the button is still attached, is okay. The reserve button, most paiskim are mekel. I must say that most paiskim are mekel, and could be even a expensive button is mutter, but we take off expensive buttons that are rare buttons, but spare buttons, you could ignore it. That's the tzuras habeged, and especially those that will never reuse that spare button. They'll take a button from the drawer better, so the spare buttons are basically bottle. The shatnez label or the cleanest tag are bottle, it's part of it. You attach your own label, identify your coat is okay. The price tag, if you're makbid, you don't want it to be there, it's hard to say it's bottle. If it's not sewn on, if it's just attached with a plastic clip, you could cut it. That would be a kareya, mekalkel, the tzairich of the malbush. Of course, that's not a concern of makav apatish, because it's really added to the jacket, it's not part of the tikkun of the jacket. Pebble in a shoe, when a person's makbid, he should take it out. Coin in the lining is a problem. It's like tissue in a pocket that is not bottled. Thumbtack, if it disturbs, you should take it out. Crumbs in the pocket, we said most paiskim are mekel. Of course, if there's significant crumbs, empty it out. Food in the mouth, is the minig is to mekel. Of course, if it bothers you, as we said, then it's problem. We quoted this in Chassidim. I said, incorrect, this is shumshimin, is not poppy seeds, shumshimin is sesame seeds. But shumshimin that you want it to be there or you enjoy it being there, that's taka the Gemara, that's a problem. When a person's eyes are tearing or the nose is running during the winter, that's ef shalizar. Roik is ef shalizar, and that's why when you expel the roik into your mouth, it's a problem. The roik you separated, you want it out. Going in the rain or the snow, the paiskim say is mutter either because it's a little bit or because it's ef shalizar, even a lot. Wet hair, most people go out with a little wet hair, and that's ef shalizar. And the fundamental question is, if you have a torn loop or something that you're makbid on Yom Tiv, is it mutter because there's no other way to wear the clothing, so it's a haitzal l'tzairich? The Chazon Ish obviously held, if you're not directly using the torn loop, it's haitzal shaloi l'tzairich and is us. Okay. Oh, I very good.
I don't know.